Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. We're going to begin this afternoon, of course, with our world lead, an earthquake in American foreign policy. And after 50 years of diplomatic backbiting, human rights abuses, espionage, and attempted invasion, even a crisis bringing the world to the brink of nuclear war, the United States and Cuba may now be moving towards something resembling normal. President Obama said today that things in Havana will start to look a lot like things in every other capital across the globe. A functional U.S. embassy, credit cards that work, a potential influx of American tourists. The announcement was tied to the celebratory announcement that this man, Alan Gross, is now home. Gross, an American USAID contractor imprisoned by the Castro government since 2009, reunited with his wife this morning, flown back to the United States. After the pilot announced that they had left Cuban airspace, Gross stood. He took a deep breath, and then he telephoned his two daughters. "I'm free," he told them. And on this, the first day of Hanukkah, Gross celebrated by having potato pancakes, or latkes, and also a corned beef on rye with mustard. Let's go to CNN Global Affairs correspondent Elise Labott. Elise, bringing Alan Gross home, obviously central to today's news, but what else pushed President Obama to act?
Well, you know, Jake, that President Obama took office looking to engage Cuba. He felt this was the moment now because of some modest changes that are happening on the island and also because it was hurting U.S. policy in the region. Now the State Department saying Secretary of State John Kerry wants to be the first secretary to go to Cuba in more than 50 years.
U.S. contractor Alan Gross on American soil. With his release, a historic opening of U.S. relations with Cuba after 5 decades of confrontation. Seeing the American flag for the first time in 5 years, a frail Gross was overcome. His toothless smile offered the untold story of the toll his captivity took on his body.
What a blessing it is to be a citizen of this country. And thank you, President Obama, for everything that you have done today and leading up to today.
Before dawn, a team of U.S. officials and lawmakers boarded a U.S. government plane for Havana to pick up Gross.
On the airplane back, as we finally crossed into U.S. airspace, you saw him give a big hurrah, put his arms up. He was clearly glad to be home.
Some tweeted photos of Gross on the joyful reunion. From Secretary of State John Kerry, a hug on arrival. Gross's humanitarian release was accompanied by a spy swap. On another plane, out of sight from cameras, a highly important U.S. intelligence source held by Cuba for 20 years was flown to the U.S. His identity is secret for the information he provided to the U.S. on a shadowy network that spied on Cuban-American exiles in U.S. military bases. 3 of those spies, held for more than a decade, were released by the U.S. today and sent back to Cuba, part of the so-called Cuban Five. The nation's top spy agency called the deal, quote, a fitting closure to the Cold War tensions between the two countries. President Obama took office promising to engage Cuba. Today, he followed through.
These 50 years have shown that isolation has not worked. It's time for a new approach.
As part of the deal, the U.S. will restore diplomatic ties with Cuba with embassies in Washington and Havana, increase travel between the U.S. and Cuba, allow business between U.S. and Cuban banks, including the use of credit cards by American travelers, permit more exports to Cuba to support business, and allow Americans to import some Cuban goods, including Cuban alcohol and cigars. In a rare address that aired at the same time President Obama spoke, Raul Castro welcomed the landmark deal.
This expression by President Obama deserves the respect and recognition by our own people.
Officials say this is not a reward for the Castro regime, but they say a recognition the embargo is not working. If the U.S. wants to change Cuba, it needs to engage more with the Cuban government and the Cuban people. Jake, officials tell me that as part of this deal, Cuba has agreed to release 53 Cuban political prisoners from a list provided by the U.S., allow more access to some of the prisoners in jail by the ICRC and the UN, and also allow more internet freedom. So the U.S. say this is a start. They will not let up on human rights, but today, obviously, a big day.
We'll see. I was in the room when Alan Gross spoke, and the very first thing he did was he touched the American flag. It was a very nice moment. It's good to have him back. Elise Labott, thank you so much.